Let me ask you this. When the dice stop rolling in Las Vegas, who is the real loser? It's a sickening lie that it's the high rollers at the gilded tables. The true victims are the forgotten souls, forced to bet their entire lives on the cold, unforgiving pavement. They possess no chips, no chance to ever win back what they've lost. Only their precious time, their youth, and what's left of their dignity, all sacrificed in a rigged game they were never invited to play. A staggering 41.7 million visitors still swarm to Las Vegas, chasing the phantom glow of billboards that promise a paradise of endless luxury. But the only sight that greets them now is the horrifying skyline of tattered, dilapidated tents scarring the legendary Strip. Once vibrant neighborhoods now lie deathly quiet, desolate ruins abandoned by hope itself. Las Vegas is screaming a different story now, a gut-wrenching eulogy for an America that is actively losing its soul. In this expose, we will plunge into the true sinful nights of Las Vegas. Not the manufactured sin of gambling and champagne, but the raw, desperate nights where the homeless are waging a war to reclaim every last inch of the Strip. This has escalated far beyond a game for tourists. It is a brutal, desperate struggle for survival in a city teetering on the very edge of total collapse. Should you dare to set foot in Las Vegas in 2025, you'll be confronted with a horrifying truth. The real gamble has spilled out of the casinos. That bet has now entered a terrifying new phase. Just as the rising tide of human despair can no longer be contained to the blistering sidewalks or the subterranean darkness of the storm drains, it has begun to breach the very walls of the casinos themselves. This is a shocking defilement of what was once the unshakable symbol of the American dream, the desert paradise of Las Vegas. This was the city whose lights were supposed to be a beacon of endless possibility, a pilgrimage site for millions. But look closer, beneath the blinding glare of those colossal, flashing advertisements, and you'll witness a pestilence of poverty spreading like a cancer. Grim monuments of makeshift shelters, cobbled together from society's refuse, now line the legendary Strip itself. In the searing 115-degree Fahrenheit heat, at the very heart of America's temple of luxury, hundreds of human beings are fighting for their next breath, just steps away from million-dollar roulette wheels. The irony is absolutely sickening. The official story from the Southern Nevada Homeless Continuum of Care claims that as of early 2025, nearly 8,000 individuals are without a home. That's just the sanitized number they've recorded in Clark County. The horrifying truth is that the real figure is catastrophically higher, hiding in the shadows of derelict cars in the city's forgotten underbelly, or cowering beneath the concrete giants of the overpasses. And make no mistake, these are not nameless drifters. These are the very people who built this city's gilded cage. The single mother who scrubbed its floors, the shuttle driver who ferried its guests to their fantasies, the decorated veteran who was fed the lie that this nation would never ever turn its back on him. In a city boasting up to 150,000 hotel rooms, it is an obscene cruelty that thousands are left with no safe place to lay their heads. What's even more unforgivable is that this plague of destitution is no longer contained. It is metastasized across the entire Las Vegas Strip, exploding by a horrifying 56% in just 3 short years. A number so catastrophic that tourism managers now openly admit it's out of their hands. On platforms like TripAdvisor and Yelp, a deluge of warnings from travelers paints a picture of a city spiraling into chaos. They tell tales of verbal assaults, of nightmarish screams echoing through the streets, of being trapped next to hotel rooms where the sounds of human breakdowns continue for hours on end. People are reporting their vacations utterly ruined, their dreams shattered by the pervasive atmosphere of unchecked madness and desperation that has poisoned the entire Las Vegas Strip. And don't believe for a second that the iconic giants are immune. Even the Flamingo and the Luxor, titans of this city, are being dragged into this escalating nightmare. They are frantically pumping money into security, issuing chilling warnings to their own guests. Do not venture outside after 10 p.m. Meanwhile, restaurant and shop owners are finally crying out. Customers don't even stop anymore, one confessed. They see the squalor and they just leave. My revenue has been slashed by more than half since that camp appeared. If this continues, he warned, his voice trembling, I could become one of them. This crisis is no longer spiraling, it's in a free fall. This is the predictable, horrifying result of decades of willful neglect, a vicious death spiral. As the army of the homeless swells, the lifeblood of tourism bleeds out, suffocating the local economy and triggering yet more layoffs, more evictions, feeding the very monster that is devouring the city. This isn't a cycle. It's a vortex. It is a black hole of failure, draining the last vestiges of light from a city we were told was immortal. And if Las Vegas, the glittering symbol of American resilience, is also facing a catastrophic chain of collapse, then what in God's name awaits our other cities? And how much longer will we just stand by and watch it all burn? Las Vegas was once adored not just for its extravagance, but for something far more precious. A feeling. An illusion where the common person could live like a king if only for one night. It was a city that sold dreams to those who couldn't afford them. But that dream is dying, not in a sudden cataclysm, but through a slow, creeping poison. The very soul of this place is being systematically dismantled, its values corroded from within. The casinos, once the vibrant, beating heart of the city, now operate like cold, soulless machines. The classic battlegrounds of chance, blackjack, craps, and roulette, where a player once stood a fighting chance, are being deliberately shoved into the shadows. In their place, an army of hundreds of modern slot machines has risen, a silent legion dominating the floor, requiring no dealers, no supervisors, no paychecks, and no benefits. Their only purpose is to ensnare you with a siren's call of flashing lights and seductive sounds. They're programming a masterclass in psychological warfare to keep you chained to that seat. And the cruelest joke of all? Players are bled dry before they even realize they're losing. The house always wins, and now its edge is a gaping maw, with machines designed to feed you tiny victories to set you up for the catastrophic loss. They manufacture a dangerous delusion that you're on the verge of winning, when in reality, you're just spiraling deeper into ruin. For the older generation, who saw this city as a trusted escape, this betrayal cuts the deepest. A chilling sense of being invisibly controlled now haunts them, forcing them to second-guess every single coin they dare to risk in these digital predators. Even the sacred, time-honored traditions are being desecrated. A traditional game of blackjack was built on a simple, sacred promise, a payout rate of 3-2. But now, in an act of pure, unadulterated greed, many casinos have shamelessly slashed that to a 6-5 ratio, a subtle, predatory change they hope you won't notice. But make no mistake, over the long term, that small adjustment amounts to a massive heist from your pocket. And most tourists are never warned until they're standing there utterly empty-handed. Most disturbingly, the casinos, once glittering palaces for tourists and high rollers, have devolved into grim, de facto shelters for the city's most desperate and destitute. The homeless now wander freely through halls that were once forbidden to them, a stark and unsettling sign of the decay. As one horrified slot machine player recounted, "I was just playing when a stranger walked right up and begged for money, right there on the casino floor. And the terrifying thing is, this isn't an isolated incident anymore. This simmering desperation recently erupted into chaos. A shocking explosion ripped through the Paris casino, inflicting an estimated $50,000 in damages. The perpetrator was a homeless individual, and while officials rushed to label it an isolated event, a deep-seated fear for personal safety is now taking root among visitors. The feeling of a safe, glamorous resort that Vegas once promised is now a ghost. The quiet disappointment of loyal patrons has curdled into a silent, burning rage. There are no protests, no picket lines. There is only an exodus. The regulars, the very backbone of this city, are vanishing. Middle-class, hard-working families who once saw Vegas as their one affordable escape are now scrutinizing every hidden fee, every rigged payout, every last-ditch attempt to fleece them. They feel the sting of being legally robbed, and they are finally choosing to walk away. They're taking their hard-earned money to places that actually deserve it. But what happens to a city built on loyalty when its most faithful followers finally abandon it? When Las Vegas ceases to be the people's playground and becomes an exclusive club for those willing to pay a devastating price, with both their wallets and their trust, a reckoning is inevitable. But if that change rips the very soul out of a city, what is truly left? Are we even playing a game anymore, or are we just trapped in a downward spiral, programmed for our own destruction? There was a time when Las Vegas was a promise, a place where for just a few dozen dollars, you could lose yourself for a whole day in a world of dazzling lights. It was a symphony of music, mountains of food, and the intoxicating feeling of living large, even if just for a moment. That was the magic that drew millions of middle-class Americans here. They came not just for the neon glow, but for a taste of luxury they could actually afford. The Las Vegas of 2025, however, is a cruel mockery of that promise. A paradise lost for the working person. The legendary diners, once famous for their $4.99 or $6.99 specials, have been quietly erased. Ocean One Bar and Grill. That shining beacon of affordable dining is now nothing but a memory. In its place, you'll find bills that will leave you absolutely staggered. $10 for a bottle of water, a jaw-dropping $43 for a hamburger, and the predatory $55 resort fee slapped on your bill whether you use the services or not. You see a room advertised for $99. But by the time you check out, the real bill has exploded to as much as $175, buried under an avalanche of hidden fees. The problem isn't just the numbers, it's the outright deception. But what truly stings is the bitter betrayal of being cast out, as a city that once threw its arms open to all now slams its doors shut, welcoming only the privileged few. Even the most loyal patrons, seniors who made an annual pilgrimage to Vegas for decades, are now recoiling in disgust, seeking refuge in smaller towns where they aren't treated as nothing more than a walking, talking revenue stream. It's a relentless assault of phantom surcharges for zero value and mandatory services that absolutely no one ever asked for. And then there are the insidious marketing schemes, preying on the illusion of a bargain. A cheap, but not really cheap trap that has shattered the faith of countless visitors. Can you believe it? Major hotels have the audacity to charge an airline ticket printing fee or slap on a post-pandemic recovery fee. These are nothing but cleverly disguised shakedowns, a veiled and shameful way to gouge every last cent from you. When a city founded on the promise that a mere $20 could buy you a few hours of escape now demands 5 or even 10 times that amount for the very same thrill, can we honestly even call this place Vegas anymore? Is this truly the unavoidable path to survival, a grim necessity? Or is it a catastrophic betrayal, a complete abandonment of the very soul that once made Vegas a shining beacon for everyday America? Make no mistake, Las Vegas is drowning in money. The revenue from tourism, casinos, and conventions still surges into the tens of billions of dollars annually. But in this glittering kingdom where everything has a price tag, from the very park benches to a simple bottle of water, the one thing becoming terrifyingly scarce is a coherent moral direction in its policies. The city relentlessly erects more casinos, throws up more opulent hotels, and stages ever more lavish spectacles. Yet behind this glittering facade, the already fragile social safety net isn't just fraying, it's catastrophically collapsing. Shelters for the homeless are bursting at the seams. Nonprofits are being forced to slash meals and shutter their doors early, starved of the very funds that are poured into corporate playgrounds. And all the while, programs for affordable housing have been left to rot, completely stagnant, because every city plan shamelessly prioritizes more entertainment zones, more foodie streets, and more high-end retail for the wealthy. Think of the sickening irony. Countless hotel employees, people who poured their taxes into this city for decades, now find themselves jobless, forced to sleep in their cars, in the very parking lots of the hotels they once served. It's a heartbreaking, twisted paradox, and it's becoming terrifyingly common. These gut-wrenching stories are surfacing with alarming frequency, and those in power appear utterly impotent, incapable of finding any real solution. There are those who will tell you this is just the inevitable outcome of a city driven purely by the market, a place where financial efficiency has been crowned king, reigning supreme over every last human and social value. But let's be clear, if your system only functions for those actively working and feeding it with taxes, then what happens to those who stumble? What about the ones who fall out of the machine, even for a moment? They are left with almost nowhere to go. And I ask you, can a city truly call itself successful when it callously abandons the very people who built it the moment they can no longer afford the price of admission? Las Vegas once stood as a monument to American optimism, a sanctuary where anyone could get a second chance. But now, as the vital support systems are deliberately dismantled, piece by agonizing piece, as the city fixates solely on curating luxury experiences for tourists, while callously ignoring the basic needs of survival for its own people. Even its most die-hard believers have begun to ask the terrifying questions. Is this a community anymore? Or has it become nothing more than a grotesque stage, where those who can't afford the price of a ticket are ruthlessly forced off, ordered to disappear in silence? Who could have possibly imagined that a distant trade war in Washington or a supply chain meltdown in Asia would unleash a firestorm on Las Vegas rental prices? But that is precisely the nightmare that unfolded. In the span of less than 4 years, the cost of merely existing in Las Vegas skyrocketed by a staggering 24%, catapulting the average rent for a simple one-bedroom apartment beyond an unthinkable $1,500 a month. For the very people who make this city run, earning a meager $5 to $20 an hour, this crushing reality means that over 50% of their entire monthly income is devoured just to keep a roof over their heads. This crisis of affordable housing in Nevada is nothing new, but it has been deliberately inflamed by a grotesquely biased investment policy, one that pours money into high-end real estate and glittering five-star hotels, and extravagant tourism projects that do nothing but pour gasoline on the fire. All the while, the federal housing assistance packages that are supposed to help have become a cruel joke, failing to even remotely keep pace with the brutal price hikes. And so every single time the federal government wields its axe cutting funding for housing or social services, it's Las Vegas, a city built on the backs of service labor, that feels the blow most acutely. And another wave of its people is shoved violently toward the brink. But the assault doesn't stop there. Drastic shifts in immigration policy and the ever-climbing costs of healthcare add even more weight to the crushing burden. Then came the slashing of unemployment benefits post-pandemic, locking countless families into a vicious, inescapable cycle. People who were once stable, living in a small apartment in North Vegas, were suddenly defenseless. All it took was a few devastating shocks in a row, a lost job, a sudden illness, one missed payment, and they were cast out, forced to live in their cars or beg for a spot in a dangerously overcrowded shelter. And this poison seeps in from the global stage as well. Wild fluctuations in shipping costs, the price of imported food, and the soaring expense of construction materials all deliver another indirect, brutal blow to the cost of living in Vegas, a city dangerously, and perhaps fatally, incapable of sustaining itself. When the price of eggs became a luxury and gasoline surged to an outrageous $6 a gallon, the people here weren't just feeling the pinch, they were being crushed in a vice. While casino conglomerates shamelessly broadcast their record-breaking quarterly profits, the very people who once served their tables, swept their floors, and cooked their meals can no longer even afford a room with a window. If the human engine that keeps this machine running every single day is being priced out of existence, then the problem isn't the people. The problem is the entire rotten, predatory model we're desperately clinging to. Las Vegas was once the promised land, a dream destination where every highway flowed toward the intoxicating lights of the Strip. But that was a lifetime ago. Now, those same paths deliver countless souls to a dead end of bitter disappointment. The grim spectacle of the homeless huddled in the very doorways of opulent hotels, the unnerving sound of chaotic crowds wandering aimlessly outside the casinos, or the sprawling shantytowns of tents pitched on the roadside have become so disturbingly common that many first-time visitors are horrified into booking the first flight home. The brutal truth is, people are fleeing. The cold hard data from the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority paints a damning picture the city bosses don't want you to see. Hotel occupancy on the fabled Strip has plummeted by a shocking 6.5% in the last year alone, as tourists escape to the city's fringes, desperately seeking some semblance of safety. But that's a hollow victory. The public forums on TripAdvisor and Yelp have transformed from places of praise into archives of stark warnings. The vocabulary has rotted. Words like happy and lively have been replaced by noisy, chaotic, and riddled with danger. As one couple from Ohio chillingly wrote, "We've been to Vegas 5 times, but this time we didn't even dare take our child for a walk after dark." The desperation is everywhere. The atmosphere is dangerously tense. We will never come back. This isn't just one family's bad experience. This is an indictment that shatters the city's oldest and most arrogant myth. That stubborn belief that Vegas always bounces back is being exposed as a lie. And maybe, just maybe, what lured people here for decades wasn't merely the blinding lights and the promise of a jackpot. It was the feeling of a genuine welcome, the chance to live out a small, beautiful dream for a few days.